Let's talk about how to increase connection with someone with avoidant attachment. Really important point about this, for these strategies to work, your partner needs to want to actually connect with you. If they're not interested, chasing them will just push them further away. In this video, we're going to talk about a few ways to get closer to the avoidant person in your life. A lot of people, they talk about being frustrated with this dynamic where they end up in where they feel like they're doing all of the relational work. They feel like their partner isn't really interested, or if they ask their partner what's wrong, the person then shuts down and pulls away. This is a really challenging situation for both people, of course. So what you need to know is that when someone else is shutting down or they're pulling away and you're trying to get close to them, they're having a very different experience than you are. It might look like on the surface like they don't care, or they're not interested, or they're irritated with you. And some or all of these things might be happening. But what is likely happening underneath on a deeper level than all of this is a lot of stress and uncertainty. Because for a person with avoidant attachment, if their attachment system, it's just not activating as much as for other people. So this means that even though they want to have a relationship, they might yearn to have deep connection, but the actual process of connection can feel kind of stressful. So you may have heard of the strange situation experiment. This was a part of early attachment research back in the 60s and 70s. They did a study where they had young children and the researchers watched their behavior. They put them in a room with an adult stranger who was female, and then the mother, in this case, left. And they watched how the child responded to the mother leaving, and then they watched how the child responded when the mother came back. And what happened was some of these kids got really, really distressed, and they were really distressed when she left. They were really distressed when she came back. Some of them pushed them away. The second group of kids didn't really have too much of a reaction to the mother leaving, and they didn't really seem too affected by her coming back. In fact, they kind of looked like they didn't care. So you can kind of guess that that first group of kids was probably the anxious attachment group. The second group of kids was the avoidant attachment group. And so the point from this is it can look like someone with avoidant attachment on the surface that they aren't stressed, but please understand what we know from research studies is actually quite different. For example, in one study, researchers measured cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and it was found to be higher in avoidant partners during a conflict. But then after the conflict, there was a big drop in cortisol. That's kind of that relaxation after the stress of the conflict and the connection. The point is, the people can definitely care and be stressed out without showing that they are. Just knowing this can help us have a little bit more understanding and empathy towards someone who may seem uninterested in talking, or they may seem uninterested in connecting. There are ways to show an avoidant partner that you're safe to talk to decrease the stress that they have from approach. I have a post on co-regulation and ways to co-regulate with another person to promote safety in relationships. I talk about there's a lot that you can do with body language. There's a lot that you can do with tone of voice to promote safety, soft, gentle eye contact, keeping your voice at a nice conversational volume, because that really high-pitched shrill voice or that really loud booming voice, those can both activate the stress response, the threat response. So staying calm and keeping potentially stressful conversations shorter so that you don't overload the other person's nervous system. Those strategies can also help to increase connection and increase trust. Also, keep in mind that people with avoidant attachment grew up in environments where it wasn't necessarily safe to talk about emotion. It wasn't necessarily safe to share their emotion. Stated a little bit differently, it wasn't always safe to be vulnerable. They didn't always feel understood. In some ways, they focused more, perhaps the adults around them focused more on getting a task done, and there was less emphasis on how they felt about it. A lot of times, parents, they have their own avoidant attachment, so they're not used to focusing on feelings. Avoidant attachment can also develop when adults aren't there for the child. So maybe the child is just alone a lot of the time. It can be really helpful to draw an avoidant person out and connect with them to get interested in what they're into, try to understand their perspective, and then honor their pace when it comes to vulnerability and talking about emotional topics. Another way to help an avoidant person to feel more understood is to use something called mirroring them. And mirroring is using their language to connect with them, using their own language to help increase the feeling of being understood. So if you are going to paraphrase what you think that they mean, just be sure that you're not kind of like adding your own story into it. Be really sure that you're being accurate with your mirroring. So, for example, this might look or sound something like this. A person with avoidant attachment, we'll just call them person A. They, in the middle of a conversation, they might say something like, "You don't do your dishes," to their partner who lives with them. Now, this could elicit a response from person B like, "Oh, you're mad because I'm not cleaning up?" Now, notice two things happened here. Person A said, "You're not doing your dishes." Person B said, "Oh, you're mad because I'm not cleaning up." They generalized doing dishes to cleaning. Those are two different things, potentially. And they also inferred or guessed that the other person was mad. Now, there may have been good reason to assume that their partner was mad, that person A was mad. Maybe there was, facial expressions or a tone of voice or body language, history, who knows. And at the same time, person A, if they have avoidant attachment, they can sometimes feel misunderstood by this. They can feel like their partner's reading too much emotionality into this. And so it can be helpful instead to use more of their words to mirror. You might say something like, person B might say something like, "You're right, I haven't been very good at doing my dishes lately." Or if the person completely disagrees with them, think they're great at cleaning up, they might say something like, "I'm confused. Can you tell me when I didn't do my dishes?" And here you're just getting more information. So getting a little bit more information, getting more clarity around what exactly is happening. What's really important here is not to get riled up or dramatic, because one of the complaints of the avoidant person, especially about an anxious partner, is that they're too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. So you're sticking with their wording, you're not making assumptions about what they're saying, what they're meaning, and you're clarifying as needed. Over time, strategies like this can help your avoidant partner to open up and get a little more comfortable with vulnerability. Helping them to feel safe and understood will go a long way towards helping them to open up. All right, I'm Kaylee Larkin. If you'd like more resources for attachment and relationships, you can visit my website, kayleelarkin.com, where you can find courses and a relationship attachment blog and guided visualizations. Hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, share with your friends. Thanks for watching.